Well, I'm here in Tucson at this beautiful location near downtown. The freeway is right across the street over there. You can hear it. And I found these things on the ground here. There's a lot of detritus. I found this great yellow golf ball. And I found this notice which says, this article meets all flammability requirements of California Bureau of Home Furnishings Technical Bulletins 116 and 117. Care should be exercised near open flame or with burning cigarettes. But the interesting thing, it says, notice eyes down at the bottom. "11. Notice and notice eyes," which makes me think of discussion I was just having about surveillance and all of those things that are happening around us and have been happening here in Arizona for a long time. This obviously was attached to a piece of furniture or a pillow or a piece of clothing, I'm not sure, but maybe it's a warning for where we are right now. It also seems to say, could say notice yes, 11, or notice eyes, 11. Take that for what it is and where we are. So I'm going to read from this little chapbook that just came out from the Belladonna Cooperative. It's called Our Weather, Our Sea, and it's a collection of mostly current work. Belladonna is a cooperative out of Brooklyn, New York. Wonderful organization that's done a lot for poetry. They produce a reading series and workshops and many different events in the city and beyond. So I'm very pleased that they did this beautiful chapbook for me. And I'm going to read from it. His face the rock cliff. His face the rock cliff, a place of views. His face a shelter, a barn, a loyal brother full of lips. His face in aging, a mirror and a protest. His son not yet amplified. His fingers on the keys and the carvings, a boy. A lawn, a dog, in the carvings a house, his hand in the dark, his one pale cheek. An empty vessel of dreams, so vivid a moment ago, now driven underground, his pale hand cradled in a chair with the tides, lists into blue folders, scattered books and long-dried figs, rips at the crust of sour bodies and ruminant hairs, protected from the rising waters by a garden in the backyard, perhaps a pool, a solid yellow couch, a green weather. A whole trunk of prayer flings across the air, a green hush of his, a simmer of trains. He steps from the road onto a berm and into the grass, packed up and furnished, out of the way in the wash and the winter of a red glossy coat. The musk of corners, the copper creek, the frogs. He rides a motorcade through a long squeeze of tar to a tiny mansion made out of truss and quilts and gently patterned sweaters. Gently patterned in the mirror, beneath a blue and velvet gown where blood still falls from his cunt. A gown so long he must watch how he walks in his patent leather shoes. He fears he will win, drunk in a tight red dress, unformed and bare-assed on a New York night, passing out and coming to in a restaurant, walking the city streets barefoot. Or is it his sister's wedding? Or is it yesterday, a shawl draped across his shoulders, not a boy, not an elf, not that girl at the piano, not that man still skeletal to shout. He walks naked in wonder, shaking in the coffee shop, naked with the grinding of beans, finger on the phone, a boy across the table, his linen shirt and his hat in the sun, perhaps a relative from the hills of Transylvania, a skinny man full of future, full of legs, and full of hearts. It's a well, goddammit, a well full of legs, a long shaft into a world under this world. He's submerged, no sides to stand on or grip. He kicks desperately, looking for a place to rest. He sinks in the narrow dark, a disk of light high above, the last he sees of an earthly day. An arm hits the paper, a page of earth without lines or coherence, just the tap. A typewriter on the back of a camel drives him from the mud onto a carpet to the large-sized, boy-sized man. The thickness of him before the West, the rock of him turned into a deadly mass. He stands with a rifle, arms flailing against a house of sudden men, a house of institutions, a house of God. He chooses a little cube of air beneath a house of dirt, where the taste of dirt, where the smell of dirt and wormy gas, where the grit of dirt sails onto his skin, where the dirt of pus and the dirt of hands and the dirt of barter and the dirt that enters through the dirt of pale moles, the daily dirt lying in caves, the ghost of dirt, the turning of bats in barns, and then the clouds and the dust that is left in the clouds. An ocean like hush for Sunny. An ocean like hush and carpet trails. Light from the bathroom window just on the other side of the door. I wake to quiet on the streets, no deal on the corner, no house of friends. I sit unattached with barns, opera girls and faint little Buddhas. I listen to the tides, to currents and breaks, bakers of heroic scones, the tarnished burdens of socks nested in drawers. My head rests on a boy, exhausted from a long-gone war. There he sleeps, naked on a cot, as the north of the mountains pours into our heads. I too am exhausted from war and lie curled in his armpit. I wonder about his smell, his black and white lips, the ocean's hush, as if the distant salt of skin will heal me. Simple pansies, goat-haired, on the green table. I hear them so faintly, a tremble of peeps. There's no explanation for this great shedding. The cough that pushes out of my sickness. There's no signature walking down the road, no routine, no posture of papers, no grand divorce. The prayers that saved me were necessary, empty of noise from anyone living. They did not invite me out. They did not care for my masochism, nor did they know my pretense. They did not darn or knit or settle debts. They did not know a garden of dowsers or this long heat. The airport slot machines in Las Vegas, all glitter and broken sidewalks. The over-the-shoulder laughter behind the weather reports. -7 in Buffalo. I'm shaking open a plastic bag, underwater, in my grandfather's fedora, wide awake with spirits, talking in shoes, a sieve of coral and little fish passing through. I beg you to stay informed, to consider entropy on a permanent basis. But you come something out of nothing, and the mansions of my house are ever cordial. They invite you close, drawing you in the low mumble of bees, the rustle of bells, a follicle of carriages, cavernous with horse breath in the snow. I find you in the winds, your legs covered in fur. I find the felt zippers that hold the shape of your feet. I find your red beard and the darker hairs on your chest. I find you in an arm, a northern gulf to a southern gulf. I find you speaking in the sheets, in the scratched crystal of the watch my sister passed on to me. She said my father was wearing it when he died. I first thought the face said Ark, but the little hand stopped just there and buried the word. At the bottom, it read Himalaya. No leather, no crystal, no Rolex, but merely indents in the nylon band from the daily circles of his wrist, the scrapes next to his hand of push-ups and snow shovels, of books and subways. Like snows at dawn, the porcelain dancers in the window stand on powder blue bases, silvery and vigorous with possibility, some neon, some pastel, some hyper-real with acid lemon, boutonnieres and spats, toes and urgent Degas red. The lips on the filigree boy a tender charcoal, the smooth mound of his crotch vertiginous and sylvan, dampened from sweat, or a careless pee. We smell that the tights need to be changed, but we wait in a room full of laborers, a long journey to come, our nights scavenged in a sleep of mortars. We sing with the trains, the soldiers, the graves. We sing with the ash, our songs rousing the barn owls, and the bottommost whales asleep in the bracken. We watch them walk out of the mud without legs, growling and minty. 3 women bring horses. 3 others make slings for the dense matter of broken things, the golden, uncertain bark, the soft sands and the smells of decay. We glimpse the brown promise of gardens, the slow, heavy journey to the edge of the sea. Whispers in the marshes, the long-beaked 10 p.m. birds pass through, and in those angel skins we wake with a hint of going, of loss, then ascending cinder, a let-go hallelujah, a lotus come rumbling and former-bodied. In the rinse of outrage, we become thick around gods and grasses, looking for old names in doorframes, the middle roads of half-moon cherries, the hollow curves of coal in dark rummage. We drive toward the ocean, not yet breaking for the rim, streams of forests and slate cliffs covered in carvings of praise. We bring our boots and our cashmere, but we are not coming back. We do not tell anyone about the dread, the persistent swimmer who sings, then breathes, then sinks again, then breathes again, reaching toward the next boat. We walk with the night blooming, the creosote, the tourniquets of willows and high desert owls, the feathered necklace, the giving of salts, my gorgeous home of cups, my heart this evening a store of ranches, of signs, of brown syrup and lust, a tarry bit of hot sidewalk, cornflowers in the cracks. The lines in my eyes mean fortune. The dust leads to a pink sky in the morning, to the smell of creosote after cool rains, grains of brittle needles, the worn stack of braille, too faint to read, the pregnancy of boys, their caves of molting earth, the bright orange garnish of last spring's salamander in the still bare woods. What is to come? What tiny pause full of child hovers just there? Not unlike the west, but acting west. The moon and the matte white rocks call to us like mallow beds or the inside of an ear. My idiot love of hats, a barrel of rinsed plums, pots of green mud between my toes. I need a meal only once every few days. The fields spread below in a buoyancy of grains, a hat for protection, a hat for collecting dews, a hat for holding water. Your tooth, anchored and stunning, shouldered in secret dreams of temples and fields, of capes and antlers, you lead a herd of curly-haired boys, sails for shirts, cups for dust, a curious tea made from an ancient suit of love. In gentle mouths you fall into the plush, a morning call to prayer, my father in a pocket blowing past my jaw. You give me a blue and white boat for a hotel and a rail line. I'm told it's not a fair exchange, a depreciating asset for something more solid. But the boat is seaworthy and takes us from the washed-out harbor with its rising seas to the high fjords and glacial bluffs, where I resist the urge to call out fortunes or finances, titles and ships of grief, every tree bent to signs. Instead, I pin my suck to your gaze and choose these 4 fortunate legs, entwined and cradled in a green purse, arena so soft, so liquid and sweet, a feathered necklace of buds, a nymphy dance on keyboards, a night in the dirt, a fairy boy in my bed, your feet on the pink waters turning to moss, the clear dark winters by fires, a flight over the bridge for nail polish, a branch from last year's storm. These are my breaking hours, my heart against yours. Traveling by sea, you are wrapped in a blue scarf. I think you were raised by a moose. Hence the Queer Cock, January 10th, 10:28:01 a.m. Hence the queer cock, the trust of wands, the trial and trestle, the train from where the original banishment occurred, the woman in a white tunic, trembling and packing on horseback. She leads an army, a brayer of burning, a bringer of tunnels. She's the queer under-knowledge of pain, the sturdy sex of providence, the holler of purchase, or corsage of paper white petals sifted on the underside of an arm, a test of knowing in wrists, in how the body falls apart in the relentless, unprotected assault of ants, the need for release, the impossible steadiness of touch without rest. There are 2 points at first, the erection on the hip and fingers in the left armpit, the both unbearable and both faint infinity without resolution, the sturdy sex of strong cock entering disorganized like a trashed garden, air seeping through a sturdy fissure of ass, hands gentle but steady, a mattock without money, just an enter without corroboration. This is all that remains of the ghost. This is all that remains of the ghost. It's my father who is dead. I need more of his leg, his arm, his earth, more of his moss, his clouds, his rain, falling through half-decomposed skin onto the sand and into the wall that is the floor, that is the wall. No window inside the concrete box where I live. My skin slides through the drain, teeth beaten from my mouth and dissolve into the scum of my cells. In the no breath, naked in the frame, I can no longer see my killing, that tulip, that bringer of veils. My blindness in the box almost complete. I see nothing, not a word or a house, not even my dog or my foot, not even your face, your fingers, or the fog. I still know the keys. But one word always means another. Stool means voltage. Rope means silver. Cold means begins. If someone could figure out the code, it might make sense, but the meanings change, then change again. I no longer remember my dreams, but I do remember a well-dressed boy in a tuxedo who sits stomping furious into a lion's ribs, riding in moated white certainty. He says, "Taxi. Run fast, taxi." I can no longer see my killing, that tulip. It's my father who's dead. I need more of his leg, his arm, his earth, more of his moss, his clouds, his rain. Standing at a desk of cranberries. Standing at a desk of cranberries. Standing at a desk of cranberries. Here in Tucson. Standing at a desk of cranberries, a small triumph of jumps. I wait longer than the rescue of rain, send prayers to the terror walking north. I do a pantomime on the edge of the cliff, overreacting to the sea and the creatures in the back of the house. If you had just looked out, I would have said, this is my little resonance. The guile of parrots, a carnival, a killing, a crusade, the final pursuit, either a panorama or a demon. The fan click refuses to stop or to cancel its insistence, stubborn in the face of carnage, the once famous, once child fortunes, the 50 days of posters, all the field deaths, all the cries of Jimmy, Caddy, Victor, are you coming? Today not to beard, but to wear black. Today not to trace the creases on my face. Today caught in parts. Today to bicep toward justice, but not to beard, as if that were even a possibility. Even with lasers and goats, an ocean of black dogs and boats, searching for better swells, a more favorable forecast, a mast out of water, I want what the pelican sees. An answer comes in the smell of wood smoke as he passes by, a personal note at the slope of his neck, trials of bridges and the moon alongside Pont Marie. I follow that smell with the O of sails and sorted shoes, with brushes and the corners of candles, a firm clap than the rubber stickiness of stones. I follow the tremble with the white noise of buses and a can of coins, surrounded by Joyce and daughter, blind on a broken chair, hearing cobbles. I'm just like you. Some dying, some grief, some scotch, my final pleas unhooked from fire and earrings, knees in the grass sinking into the sordid dirt, my beach a tree pleading with the summer surf, walking or chased, a thin orange fish that sucks at my sleep, a morning trail in lavender musk, preacher mounds, a human fever, a corner room settled in blue plaid, a pot of red bowls, a curtain of frames, a pitted eye, a chimney, a pear. Where would these words be without a subject? Little carvings of mosquitoes landing on my hands, headaches digging an elision of craters, an empty blow of air that follows my feet, the big lumber of my dogs no longer here, his hair an excursion still fluttering on the tile, slush and whispered breath where the naked man on the street washes his back with purple flowers. You keep saying boy, like it's the belt that was used to tie you to the bed. You keep saying bull, like you were forced to fight. You keep saying dragon, as if courage had no sound. You keep saying hair and crib, like babies come out of shells. From button to button, what spunky rope, what cold claustrophobe, what caravan of pack dogs, what kink and rocky tunnels do I have to sliver through? Every exhausted moon, batteries dwindling toward unnameable and permanent night. My knees pray the floor will open to a new city. A door to my back, the molding, cheesy and rectal. I run with the horses across the field, the town wiped off the track and left behind. You curl up at the back of my neck and we go bucking over the whole knot of trails, the whole veiny land. Or weather our sea. It looks so clean, no dirt, no rust. A canvas cover with cutouts for windows. A perfect caravan. A self-enclosed home heading toward the sea, your back turned to me. You drive, while our little house flickers in the waves, its wheels throwing out tails of spray. The water rises outside the gates. I walk with a carton of juice. I turn back, but there's no place to stand. I see you far out in the clear, clean spray where there's nothing but foam. With only my arms, I'm a fool to think I can catch up. A trace of rain, our weather, our sea falling sideways from the beaks of gulls. We float with the fish, the backside of tokens, our sickness trails behind, fluorescent and running through like fists or trains. The train, a cruel stand-in, counsel to a town of brutal days. The tracks swell, then the documents, the records of births, the wills, the boxes of curtains, the gardens, the shelves, the doors of trucks. The brakes fail with arc lights and sparks, the housing hot in the belly, so heavy the cars fall through the hallways of bricks, the gaps of lost months. The stars are always accurate. A wave of swords races down from the night. What was once a boat is now paper, soaked and dissolving away. What was once a vessel, now simply a tired body. What was once a jewel, now a stone that carries us apart, a handhold in Orion's belt.